These people don't know the difference between shirk and sin. And the Prophet ﷺ's face was red and he was angered when he heard his companions doing this by the Quran. So, Allah, and you see them in the videos. Allah, hey, you're praying to Allah. Allahu Akbar. Then he goes to sujood. That's wrong. You can't say Allahu Akbar while standing. And I'll work as a janitor, or I'll wash dishes in a restaurant. This is not what Islam says to you. Sulaymani from Germany.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Sheikh, I want to ask you if you can clarify me about this topic of shirk of fear or shirk of obedience, because I am a little bit confused and I am a layman, so I don't understand it exactly. And I want to give you an example, and then you can tell me if this is maybe shirk of fear or shirk of obedience. And if not, I would be grateful if you would explain me in which level it would go in the level of shirk of fear and shirk of obedience. For example, a young man and a young woman were called downstairs to carry packages. Then the young man went a bit earlier so that he wouldn't be alone with her in the elevator, because as far as I know, that is haram. However, when she came out, she said, "Come in the elevator, it's faster." The young man then went into the elevator, but he was too shy, felt uncomfortable, and he was also afraid to say no. So this is my example, and Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Shirk is to associate others with Allah Azza wa Jal. And some scholars may go out of their way protecting Allah's tawheed and putting barriers so that even getting close to the shirk would not be possible. And that is a good thing to do. However, people with ignorance, people who are oblivious of the religion, people who had never done anything in tawheed, in aqeedah, who did not study the verses of the Quran and the tafsir and the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, may exaggerate, inflate, and shaitan utilizes this, trying to get them out of the fold of Islam by creating a lot of whispers, a lot of, what if I'm not married to my wife? What if our marriage is invalid? What if I do a sin and enjoy it? Isn't this changing the rule of Allah? Isn't this shirk in love? Because I love to smoke, I love to watch movies, I love to listen to music. Isn't knowing that it's haram, isn't it shirk of love? When my friend tells me, let's watch this movie, and I obey him, isn't this shirk in obedience? These people don't know the difference between shirk and sin. Shirk is to associate others with Allah Azza wa Jal to the level where Allah's command is as equivalent to their command. Their fear of Allah is as their fear of humans. Even if the humans can't see them, if they cannot hear them, they're still afraid of them out, not of physical fear, but rather out of reverence, out of glorification, out of humility. This is a form of worship. So if a woman says to you, come on board in a lift, and you know it's haram, but you were ashamed, you were hesitant, you were afraid to lose your job, this is sinful. There is no shirk. You're not worshipping her. There is no reverence. There is no glorification. There is no ibadah. There is no humility between a servant and his Lord. If someone loves his girlfriend and whatever she tells him, he does it out of love, he's sinful. He's committing a major sin. We don't elevate this to shirk. So you need to go and study, for example, the book of At-Tawheed of Imam Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab and his other book, The Three Principal Fundamentals, and you will find it, inshallah, a better understanding. Hassan from the UK.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Sheikh, if people are close to one another in the mosque and someone is reciting the Quran at a normal volume that I can clearly hear, am I obliged to forbid him from reciting at this level by telling him to lower his voice? Also, if someone enters the mosque and sits down without praying 2 rakahs, am I obliged to instruct him to do so?
It's not an obligation upon you to order someone to pray Tahiyyat al-Masjid if he comes in, knowing that some schools of thought believe that it is not mandatory. So giving him the benefit of the doubt and knowing that you're not a scholar or a renowned imam of the masjid who would have the authority to approach a person and give him such an advice. No, you don't have to say anything to him, because he could simply reply to you by saying it's an issue of dispute and I follow XYZ school of thought. As for someone who's reciting the Quran in a loud voice, if this interferes with your own dhikr or your own recitation, yes, you may approach them with diplomacy and respect and tell them that the Prophet ﷺ prohibited raising our voices with the Quran in the masjid, so that we would not, in a sense, compete who raises his voice more. If I'm reading Surah Al-Kahf on a Friday and you come next to me and you start to recite it loudly, audibly, where I and the person next to me can hear it, this interferes with my own recitation. Now you are confusing me. You're making me make mistakes, especially if I'm reciting it from my own memory. So in order to counter this, I raise my own voice in the section that I'm reading so that I would not hear you. But that would confuse you and the others. And the Prophet ﷺ's face was red and he was angered when he heard his companions doing this by the Quran. So yes, you may approach him. Muhammad from Malaysia.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamualaikum.
When you are the ma'mum and you can see the imam and he goes into sujood or ruku, and you can see he's already reached like the position of sujood, but he still hasn't finished saying Allahu Akbar. So are you allowed to go down?
Yes, you are. The moment the forehead of the imam touches the ground, whether he said Allahu Akbar or he's still saying it or he did not start saying it, you can immediately go for sujood. Because what counts is the movement of the imam, and he is definitely wrong in delaying it this much. In the masjids I pray in, I see many imams do this mistake. Sami Allahu liman hamida, Rabbana wa lakal hamd, hamdan kathiran tayyiban. Then he goes for sujood and he touches the ground, and while in sujood he says Allahu Akbar. Akhi, what are you doing? He says, if I say it midway, a lot of the worshippers, followers behind me can be much quicker than me and probably would go to sujood before I reach. That's on them, not on you. Your takbir should be takbir of movement, not while you're standing like so many imams who are, and I've seen this even on videos, they're so keen on getting their voices on the mic. So while in the standing position after ruku', they say Allah, and you see them in the videos. Allah, hey, you're praying to Allah. Allahu Akbar. Then he goes to sujood. That's wrong. You can't say Allahu Akbar while standing. And some say, no, I'm gonna teach them to wait until he reaches the ground, then he says Allahu Akbar. And that is also wrong. The moment you start to move, you say Allahu Akbar. So by the time you end, you're almost in sujood or just before sujood. If the people move before you finish saying Allahu Akbar, though they can't see you, that's on them, not on you. You should follow the sunnah and Allah knows best. Vishal from Pakistan.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaikum salam rahmatullah.
Yeah, Sheikh, my question is that my exams are coming, so my university does not allow the past papers to be exposed. They hide it. But some teacher tell the type of questions that came last year by asking those previous year students. So can I watch that video? Because I have read on a website on Islam QA that if you ask or seek for question, it is haram. So I had a doubt.
No, there is no haram in that. I am studying, I'm not cheating. If the material found on YouTube, if the previous exams are available on the internet, that's not on me. That's on the administration, who's not intelligent enough to know that the questions of previous years were leaked. So you guys have to put new questions, and you have to have a data bank of a million questions, for example, and make it difficult for people to know what is going to come next test, but at least gives them a heads up to understand that these are a lot of questions to study, and if you do study them, definitely you've passed the course. Ziad from Bangladesh.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
So, Sheikh, I study in a mixed university, and in one of the assignments, that we have to visit a place and record a video of reviewing that place. and we have in our group three girls and three boys. So is it permissible to do that?
First of all, we've stated before that segregation between the genders is mandatory in Islam. This has to be implemented by the Muslims. We are not here to bend the rules or to custom make new Sharia laws. The laws are fixed in the Quran and the Sunnah. The scholars have discussed this since the beginning of time, and the religion of Allah will not change or be altered due to Tom, Dick, or Harry. Number two, in some quote-unquote Muslim countries who are not implementing Sharia, who are not practicing Islam, who do not know or do not want to know the Islamic rulings, unfortunately, one may face the problem of studying in a mixed universities. If this is the case, as a man, you're the breadwinner. You can't just simply say, I'm not studying, and I'll work as a janitor, or I'll wash dishes in a restaurant. This is not what Islam says to you. Islam says you have to adapt and you have to commit yourself to the Islamic rulings. Lower your gaze, no chit-chatting, limit your talk to whatever is necessary, never be in seclusion, and the likes. So if you were assigned to a study group, and this is something you can't escape, this is a subject you have to study to graduate, and they assign you to 3 more girls with other boys, and they give you a project. So you work on this project by lowering your gaze, by limiting whatever is needed of communication with the opposite gender to 1 + 1 = 2, nothing else. No flirting, no socializing, no trying to be diplomatic, polite, or funny. No, you have to be strict, totally. Even if they say he's extreme, no problem. What I want is to please Allah, not to please others. If this involves you taking videos of the women participating with you, which is haram, or editing it with having music, this is not permissible. You have to pull out. Just limit yourself to the writing of the report or whatever, something that is halal, and Allah knows best.